It is now 7 p.m. I'm going to start the webinar.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the regular meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission, June 25th, 2024. We'll begin with a roll call vote. Just roll call.
Chair Brown,
Present.
Vice Chair Freeman,
Present.
Commissioner Cripps,
Here.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Present.
Commissioner Oche,
Present, please.
and Commissioner Way.
Here.
Chair, that's 6 present.
Thank you. The next item is public comment, and this public comment section is for members of the public wishing to address the commission on matters within the jurisdiction of the city, but not on agenda items. If you do have a public comment on a specific agenda item, please wait until that agenda item comes up. Do we have any public comment either on Zoom or in person for non-agenda items?
Chair, I'm seeing no hands raised online or in person.
Okay. All right, moving on to agenda changes, additions, and deletions. Are there any members of the commission that have any suggestions to the agenda? All right, seeing none, move on to the approval of the minutes from the May 28th meeting. Any comments? Yeah, Commissioner Cripps?
Yes, thank you very much. On page 3, line number 37, it talks about the team should being notified regarding the turf, and I think it's probably teams as a plural, just to make sure that everybody's being notified.
Oh, can you speak into the mic?
Sorry. You want me to speak again? On page 3, number 30, line number 37, teams, it should be teams plural instead of team. And then on line 24, page 4, I was confused about the statement skate park not actually approved project. And I wasn't sure whether that meant that it wasn't in the CIP or that it had never been approved, because I understood that there was quite a bit of discussion years ago about that. So just a clarification of the minutes. Is there another way to write those?
Yes. Chair, may I speak to that? Hi, Kristen O'Kane, Community Services. We can make a revision. What it means is it's not a project in the CIP at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all.
You're
I
welcome.
have.
Any other comments or suggested edits to the minutes? Do we have a motion for approval with those suggested changes?
No, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Great. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Chair Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cripps,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Abstain, as I wasn't here.
Commissioner Oche,
Yes, please.
Commissioner Way.
Yes.
Chair, that's a 5-0 vote with 1 abstain.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to the department report.
Great, thank you. Excuse my voice there. Steve Castile, I'm the Assistant Director for Open Space, Parks and Golf. And with me today is Sarah Robustelli, who's our Division Manager. And Sarah, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, good evening, commissioners. Good to see everyone. Next slide, please. The outdoor movie nights have taken place, and they've been a big success. We've had bringing hundreds to community members to Mitchell Park. And we want to encourage you to mark your calendars for July 12th for our next movie day, which is Disney's Wish, which is going to be, bringing more people to the park, which is very exciting. On your right-hand side of the slide, is our flyer for the 4th of July Chili Cook-Off and Summer Festival. This fun starts at 11 a.m. at Mitchell Park, and it's fun for all ages. There is a free chili tasting, food trucks, live band, beer, margaritas, crafts, games, and inflatables. We encourage you to bike or walk and bring your own picnic blanket. The commissioners should have received an invite from Adam Howard to participate as judges this year. If you have not received that, please, I'm happy to put you in touch with Adam Howard and we can get that connected. Next slide. On this slide, recreation summer camps are off to a great start. Kids are having a blast with all of our camps, especially those at Foothills Nature Preserve, which are featured here on the slide. We look forward to an action-packed summer with over 1,500 registrations. I now will turn it over to Steve Castile for updates on our CIP projects.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Next slide. So we'll start off with the capital improvement projects in construction. We just received 2 of our restrooms for installation last week. The first one was at Ramos Parks, and then the second one was over at Rinconada. These have been a long time in waiting, and we finally got these pretty much set in place. And the next steps on that project is that we're anticipating the utilities to be hooked up and plumbed and hopefully ready for use coming up in August. Next slide. Another couple exciting little projects are the Baylands entrance gate replacement project. What this is going to do essentially is automate the opening and closure, which is really going to help staff facilitate and operate and streamline, the opening and closing of the parks within the Baylands area. And then also we have the Joint Intercepting Sewer Rehabilitation Phase 1 project. That's a project that's going in essentially to basically bypass the existing line. Then they're going to basically be re-sleeving the project that's out there. They are currently working on that one. We put up exclusionary fencing for the project itself and anticipate work to begin, within the next month or so. Next slide. Mitchell Dog Park project. This is a big one that we've really been looking forward to. This is going to be an expansion of the existing dog park. We're going to be putting in new amenities, increase the turf space, changing out brand new fencing, bringing in water fountains for the dogs, and improving the overall playability of the surfaces. And in addition to that, we're going to be adding a new small dog play area adjacent to the larger one here for the bigger dogs. And then moving on to Cameron Park Improvement Project. We just put the fencing up this week. This is exclusionary fencing, basically for tree protection. What this is going to entail is a brand new playground for the children that are out there. We're also going to be putting in a pedestrian pathway that's going to link the streets across the turf median area, and also put in some amenities with that and picnic table and benches for that project. And that's kicking off coming up this week as well. Next slide. All right, and that's it for the report.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments for staff from the commissioners? Commissioner Cribbs?
Yes, I just want to say I really appreciate this report this time of year because it's so great to see the kids at the camps and doing all the outdoor things. So thank you very, very much. It's a really happy time.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Well, I like the report. Regarding movie night, I haven't had an opportunity to attend one, but I will. What's been your attendance on that and kind of the feedback, I guess?
Recreation's reported that there's been several hundred at each event. So we've had 2 so far.
And then Mitchell Park project, the small dog area that's being improved. Has that started? And what type of notifications being made to the public?
So we're going to be basically, we put out notification on the fence line there at the main dog park about the expansion project. We can actually, there's actually postings online as well, so they can look into it. And then what we're going to be doing too is there's certain existing chairs and things are there that have been prodded by the public. And so we're notifying that as well, that if they would like to come and remove those that are not part of the project, they're more than willing to do that. But we do have outreach going out for that as well.
We also have a mailer that's being mailed 500 feet from the project area to all the residents within 500 feet.
Thank you.
Commissioner Oche?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for the updates, Steve and Sarah. I'm looking forward to watch the Wish on the 12th with my kids. And a big kudos to the team that's working on the chili cook-off. I'm also hoping to be there as well. The only quick question I wanted to ask was for the Ramos and Rinconada restrooms, I'm not too sure if I saw a notice there for residents because I know the discussion came up in one of the chats in Palo Alto Moms. I was just scrolling and I saw someone asking about details of when the restrooms will be ready. So I don't know if I missed it when you did the slideshow. I'm not too sure.
I'm not sure if there was a notification as to when they will be ready, but we can put that on the website for people to take a look at.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments?
Thank you. Great to hear that the restrooms are going to be opening up at Ramos and Rinconada. That's really good news. Couple follow-up questions on the Mitchell Dog Park update. It's great that you're sending out a mailer. Is there any direct outreach to the dog park advocacy groups? There's a friends group that's been advocating for dog parks that we've worked with in the past, even if it was just an email to the head person in the group so they could make sure that their group is notified. That seems like a good way of targeted information.
That's a great idea. I'll connect with you offline and maybe you can help me with that contact.
I'll suggest that you connect with the dog park liaison.
Yes, I have that contact.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
All of us.
And what's the time frame for when start of construction and anticipated reopening?
July 8th, it will be started construction, completing construction in October.
So the dog park will be closed for
Correct.
those 3 months. Okay, great. And same question for the Cameron Park improvement. What's the time frame for start of construction? And
This week, and it's completing August 30th.
It's about an 8-week project.
great. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, congratulations for the great work. I have another question for the movie night. Congratulations for the success. Is there total capacity for the movie night? Since we have a couple hundred people each time already, do you anticipate will increase or we have enough space?
Recreation hasn't indicated that there's any problem, so I believe, the more the better currently.
Okay, fantastic. How do you advertise it to reach such success?
I know that it's in the catalog. It's also on our website. I believe they also utilize social media in addition to our city uplift newsletter and some of our other correspondence.
Well done. Thanks so much.
I have one question about the proposed restrooms for Mitchell Park, and if the location has had any update about where those might be. Are they part of the existing bathrooms, or are they going to be over by the Magical Bridge, or has there been any community outreach?
So we still haven't determined the exact location of our next restroom project. So during the council meeting or the finance committee meetings, when we were reviewing the budget, there was a direction to focus our next restrooms on Eleanor Pardee Park. So we're going to have to look at what our bandwidth is to If we were to do Party and Mitchell, we have to work closely with Public Works on that
Mhm.
because they would be leading those projects. So as of right now, it's still much up in the air as to which restroom would come first and where the restroom at Mitchell Park would actually go.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know there's a lot of interest both in the Magical Bridge pickleball area, new bathrooms, new restrooms, and also the ones at Party Park. So I'm sure it's a challenge for everybody, but we'd love to know as soon as there are plans.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more request. It's great to see the information on the outdoor movie nights. I wonder if it'd be possible to have a similar flyer talking about the Twilight Concert Series. I know that's technically a different side of CSD, Community Services Department, and it's under the arts, but it's happening at the parks. I think it's good to help promote that there. So if we just include that in the next department report, that'd be great. And I enjoyed going to one of the concerts recently. Great program.
Great. Just thank you. Great report. The Baylands entrance gate seems very exciting to have that automated to give some capacity to staff. And then I never thought I'd be so excited about seeing a picture of a bathroom. So thanks for including the pictures.
You're very
exciting.
welcome.
All right, let's move on to the business items. The first being the traffic garden presentation with Peter Jensen.
Yes, so I will first thank Commissioner Greenfield. I wanted to thank him because he introduced staff to our next speaker. So I'd like to welcome Nara. She's sitting here. She's a rising senior at Gunn High School, and she will be presenting this evening.
Hi. So I'm presenting a new traffic garden for Palo Alto, which would be located at the Ventura Community Center. Next slide. So what I want to talk about tonight. So I want to talk about why having a traffic garden in Palo Alto.
Get a little bit closer to the mic so we can all hear you. Thank you.
So what I want to talk about tonight. So I want to talk about why a traffic garden would be a great resource for the Palo Alto community and the site that we've already found for the traffic garden and how we can pull this project off. Next slide, please. So what is a traffic garden? Next slide. So a traffic garden is a series of small streets with common traffic elements, kind of like a play kitchen where kids can practice their skills, pretend before they go out and try the real thing. Traffic gardens are very family friendly. Parents, children, siblings can all come and practice their bicycle safety skills at a traffic garden. The design of a traffic garden is very simple. It has a lot of common traffic elements which can be personalized to fit the current infrastructure that we have in Palo Alto. And one of the main features of a traffic garden is that it's an off-road place to practice bicycle safety. So that way there's like no risk of getting hit by cars or disturbing traffic, while trying to learn how to do these essential skills. And it gives hands-on bike safety practice, which is really important to help internalize bike safety skills that kids learn in elementary school and in middle school. And it helps them learn through play, right? Kids love playing. And so by giving them this opportunity to learn through play, it would really help solidify their skills and help them keep it throughout their life. Next slide, please. So this is a short video about a traffic garden in Vancouver Heights, Washington, that was recently installed. So it gives a good idea of what a traffic garden would look like in action.
I'm not sure if we're going to have audio for the video, but just a heads up. And this presentation will be linked to the agenda for anyone who wants to follow up with the audio.
So in October, we hosted a traffic garden pop-up at Bike Palo Alto. This helped kids to prepare them for their bike ride before they went out on the streets. And a lot of kids participated and everyone really enjoyed it. And there was a lot of positive feedback with our traffic garden pop-up. So next slide, please. So here's some sample traffic gardens. So there's one in King City in Salinas, California. There's one, the West Side Traffic Garden in Roanoke, Virginia, and the White Center, Seattle Traffic Garden. And you can see they're all very different and they're all adapted to fit the space that they were in. And most of them use underutilized asphalt space and bring another level of vibrancy to that area. Next slide, please. So why a traffic garden for Palo Alto? So number one is safety. It's proven that education helps reduce bicycle-related collisions. And in Palo Alto, about 58% of our students walk or bike to school daily. So this is a really important aspect of it. And it also increases bicycle safety education accessibility. So there can be a lot of barriers to bicycle safety education, like scheduling, time commitment, and like the perception that bicycle safety education is boring. So by making this a fun, playful space, we remove some of those barriers and it would be accessible to the public all the time. So it would also help encourage more and safer biking. And Palo Alto would be the first in the Bay Area to have a traffic garden. So we would lead this initiative here. The traffic garden would also further Palo Alto policies as noted in the City Comprehensive Plan of 2030. So it'd help with our safe streets goals and also our sustainability goals. And another reason why this would be great is because children not in third grade could have the opportunity to practice their biking skills hands-on. So right now, the third grade bike rodeo is only open to third grade students, and it's only one day. So if a student misses it, they've missed it for the rest of their life, right? But this way, kids can use it and not miss out on this valuable experience as well. Next slide, please. Here's another video. This one doesn't have much audio either. So the proposed location of the traffic garden would be at the Ventura Community Center. Next slide, please. So the Ventura Community Center would be a really great location for the traffic garden. It's centrally located in a neighborhood. There's lots of kids that, bike around it because it's close to school routes such as Park Boulevard and Ventura Avenue. And it's very easy location to walk or bike to as well. So there's a lot of community support for this location. So the Palo Alto Community Children Care, which is the organization that leases the space, has expressed verbal support for having a traffic garden in their area, and the Safe Routes to School is also very supportive of this location. So location is also very family friendly. There's lots of things for people to do, including the open fields, the playgrounds, the community center, and then there's also a community garden in the back. And a traffic garden would use the unused asphalt space at the Ventura Community Center and really bring more vibrancy to the space as well. Next slide, please. So here are some existing location photos. You can see there's like a really great field. And then there's also, the asphalt is right now, there's nothing on it except for a little tricycle loop for the preschool that's already there. So it would be great to add something as well. Next slide, please. So the design of the traffic garden. Next slide. So this is our proposed project. So the traffic garden would just be painted on the asphalt, and the traffic garden would include a lot of elements that kids see or we see biking around Palo Alto, including 4-way stops, 3-way stops, crosswalks and pedestrian bicycle interaction, looking over the shoulder, and a traffic circle as well. So along with the traffic garden, the physical traffic garden, we would create a lesson plan associated with it, the Safe Route, in partnership with Safe Routes to School. And the traffic garden could be used to hold bike Palo Alto or be a stop on the bike Palo Alto ride, as well as used to hold back to school events. And it could be open to private bike classes such as Wheel Kids, Palo Alto Adult School Family Cycling Program, or even like adaptive bicycling classes for kids with disabilities or different mobility needs. Next slide, please. So here's a larger image. So you can see that there's the traffic circle as well as the 4-way stop, and then there's some driveways and parking spots to watch out for and crosswalks. Next slide, please. So a traffic garden installation and maintenance is very easy. So next slide. So they're very easy and simple to build and maintain. Installation can be done with readily available equipment by people who already stripe parking lots and basketball courts, and then the rest would be stenciled on. And, these skills aren't very different from things that people already do on a larger scale with roads and parking lots, right? And then the installation will also be very quick, only 2 to 3 days from start to finish. The maintenance is also very easy since it's just paint on asphalt. It would just be normal asphalt, like cleaning, sweeping, and like making sure it's just tidy. And the routine paint maintenance would be very low, every like 5 to 10 years, depending on the paint, because there's no cars to wear down the paint as well as just foot traffic. And then it would be very easy to touch up and repaint because of the fact that you just have to go over the existing lines. Next slide, please. So budget and funding. So a traffic garden is very low cost because it's just paint on a surface again. So our cost estimate here it does depend on design, but it gives a good idea. So if you just have the paint on the surface and nothing else, it would be, around $1,500. And then other things can be added later and not immediately. And funding could come from the city, outside grants like Safe Streets for All, or major donors. Next slide, please. So project partners, I've already been working with some people from the city, such as Rose Mesterhazy from Safe Routes to School, and Peter Jensen from Public Works. I've also been working with a bike safety educator, Maria Avalock, and then we've also onboarded a national traffic garden expert, Vanula Quinn, to help the project as well. Community support. So this project is, a lot of people really love it. So we've got the Gun PTSA have written a letter in support for the traffic garden. Community members also really liked it. We have 148 petition signatures now from Bike Palo Alto, from our Bike Palo Alto event. The Gun Bicycle Club is also very supportive. And then the city of Palo Alto's Transportation, Community Service, and Public Works Department have also been very supportive of the project. Another very generous family, the Lafargue family, has pledged $3,000 already to the project, and SVBC and Payback are also very supportive of this approach. Next slide, please. So our next steps would be to continue raising community support, continue refining the design and creating programming by Safe Routes to School, and then we would continue to bring in and engage the community, fundraising and finding a major donor as well, then finalizing the budget, installation, and then celebrating our big milestone in bicycle safety. Next slide, please. So please support the traffic garden. I am a rising senior this year, so after I graduate, I want to make sure that this can continue and go on, right? So I hope to implement this by spring of 2025. I would love to hear fundraising ideas and hear your ideas about support. And I really hope that you support the traffic garden, as it would be a really valuable asset to the Palo Alto community. Questions and comments?
Thank you so much. Stellar presentation. Before we go to the full commission, I do want to allow for public comment. If there are any comments from the public on this item, please raise your hand on Zoom, or if you have a speaker card in person.
Chair, we do have 3 in-person speakers at this time. If anyone online would like to speak, please raise your hand. And if anyone else would like to speak, please submit a speaker card. Our first speaker will be Maria. Maria, you've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Great. Hi, I'm Maria Abelak, and I've been Nara's mentor for this project for 1.5 years. This is how long it's taken her to work out this idea and bring it to you. So I'm a Safe Routes to School advocate and educator in the community. And I have participated in teaching many of the 3rd grade bike rodeos that are part of PAUSD 3rd grade education. And a number one comment that parents say is, oh, this is so wonderful. I wish we could do it again next year, or how can we do it again? The rest of my family wants to participate as well. So having something open to the community at all times would be a great asset. The traffic garden would provide, a safe area for anyone to practice and gain confidence so that it meets the city's sustainability, mobility goals, as well as the safe systems approach with reducing risk and injury to riders. So more people can feel competent to bike on the city's bikeways and reduce traffic. And I also want to commend Nara on all her work that she's put into this project. She's presented her idea to many people. She has proven the proof of concept at the Bike Palo Alto event. And she's a high school student, right? And she's doing the work of a lot of work on this project. So I just want to commend Nara for that. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I'm working a little bit with Nara, and I really am very impressed by this presentation she just did. I was really surprised and really surprised in a good way. She's doing city level stuff as a high schooler, so that's really impressive. I have experience in a master's in urban planning, specifically on biking and pedestrians. So I think I love to do this. Also, I think it's worth remembering that most of the people biking in Palo Alto are not 16 yet. They don't have a clue how the roads are supposed to look, how they should behave in the street. I live right by a middle school. I see proof of it every day. Like, they don't know how to ride. Like, they'll ride 5 abreast, they'll ride on the wrong side of the street, they'll ride in outside the bike lane, they'll ride wherever they care. So I think this would be really good for the people that make it to the traffic garden to have some chance of remembering the rules of the road. And I think the location she chose is really good as well. So thank you.
Our next speaker is Kevin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Kamak. I'm an individual here in Palo Alto and a father. I've been in Palo Alto for more than 2 decades now and raised my children from birth to young adulthood here. We really love the city for the parks and the level of just recreation and interactivity that's provided here, and the level of safety that Palo Alto has around biking and the mix of cars, because this is actually a rather unusual place where we have a lot of heavy traffic and a lot of industry mixed with very residential activities. And that's always been really impressive. But one of the things that has really stood out every time that we use the parks in Palo Alto, and we've used the other public spaces, is that there is a lot of asphalt and a lot of concrete. And much of it is simply a blank field. And it has always struck me that could be put to much better use. And something like this would add a great deal of value to the park space that it's in, whether it's just at Ventura or whether there's one at every park here in the city. It would certainly make the family time that we spend at the parks, especially when the kids were younger, much better. The other thing I wanted to add here was that the Bike Palo Alto, the bike rodeo, and some of the other activities that happened when my children were in elementary school were wonderful. And I really wish we could do them more often, right? And this provides a way for us to continue those activities other than that one day a year when that was available. So I would urge the commission here to support this, and I just want to throw my weight behind it. I think this is an absolutely brilliant project, and it's very clear that NARA has spent a great deal amount of time on this, and thank you very much.
Chair, I'm seeing no more hands raised online or in person.
Great. Thank you to all the public commenters. And again, thank you for the presentation. Just to clarify before we move forward with commissioner comments, this is a discussion item only, confirming with staff. So there's no formal direction or vote being taken today. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Greenfield.
Thank you, Nara. Wonderful presentation. And I got to say, we met a couple months ago to hear about the project. We met with staff, both the transportation and community services staff, and talked about the project in the conception stage and the evolution of the project and the progress to get to this point is really fantastic and really very happy to see the fine tuning of this. And I'm sure Peter and Jensen and Public Works staff were involved with this. I hope it's okay to say that this is a Girl Scout Gold Award project for NARA. It's similar to an Eagle Scout award for Boy Scouts. It's a big deal, but she's also on a time frame to try and accomplish something that will benefit the community and that has some longevity and will last. And so being able to refine the project into something that's really pretty simple and straightforward to accomplish, and at a relatively reasonable cost, I think is fantastic. So my hats off to you and everyone you've worked with. And I'm sure there's been a lot of staff involvement from various departments, transportation, public works, and CSD. So I just want to say thank you on that. And I have some comments that I can make at the end, but if other people don't make them.
Other commissioners? Commissioner Wei?
Yeah, congratulations. It's very impressive. And I'm blown away of the idea. And I think your work with the city staff has generated great results. Few couple of small questions about, I saw you did a pilot is that a school or how did it come about?
So yeah, it was at Bike Palo Alto at Fair Meadow Elementary School. And so we drew out the outlines in chalk, and then we used, I borrowed some of the city's bike rodeo equipment to make it 3D and like have like the signs up and things like that.
So that's a temporary. So after that, you just wipe off everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that inspired me to think, it just thinking out of the box, whether that's something, I know it's a different entity. Every elementary school can have so you will have not just one centralized traffic garden, you have traffic gardens in our elementary school. That's a school board discussion, of course, but this is the concept. Definitely benefit for children start young when they're 5 and 6. And how long normally would it take to install a proper one if you have that in the community center?
So I was told about 2 to 3 days to install. So
that's a permanent.
Yeah.
So that was out curious because that 2 to 3 days seemed to be really fast.
Mm-hmm. The chalk one that we made only took 2 hours to map out and prep for Bike Palo Alto. So it's very quick.
Fantastic. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Oche?
Thank you, Chair. I highly commend you, Nara, and I'm looking forward to see this come to fruition before you graduate.
Yes.
I'm also hoping that, this would serve as an example for our young people to develop more community projects. So kudos to you. I'm also guessing you have a contingency plan for raising the funds, so I won't go there, but I can touch base with you on that for fundraising. I'm curious to know what the backstory to this idea is. I have a couple of other questions, but just curious to know what prompted you to do that. Have you been to any other traffic bike gardens?
So what prompted me to do this was biking to high school and back every day. In my freshman year of high school, a lot of kids bike to Gun, and so there's like a really big clog that like moves through like El Camino Way, and it's like 2 lanes, and there's cars parked on like both sides, and there's not enough space for like cars and bicycles, and a lot of the kids are in a rush to get home because they don't want to be at school anymore. And so I got pushed off my bike by another cyclist and then run over by a second different cyclist, and I was like, oh, wow, like if they were paying attention more, maybe this wouldn't have happened. If they had if people knew like how to bike safely and like they're biking, like they're like driving, right? Like maybe this wouldn't have happened. And so I thought like, oh, education, right, would really help alleviate this problem, because I see it not just like my personal experience, but I see it like when the middle schoolers like bike to school, I see them doing some kind of dangerous things. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing, and sorry about your experience. I
Yeah.
see a lot of bike things too, so trust me, I'm with you on that. I was just want to also ask you, have you visited any traffic garden yet?
I have not yet, but I've been like visiting like pop-up bike rodeos like that happen around town. So like until recently there weren't any in like close enough, but in December, Monterey County installed 12 of them at all of their elementary schools.
Awesome. Two more questions and I'll be done, I promise. I'm just curious to know if there was any risk assessment done. For example, if kids fall or if it rains, is any first aid or, do we have any plans to make sure we cover that?
That's a really good question. I haven't heard anything about that from our traffic garden expert, and I'm pretty sure I don't see a lot of bikers when it rains or people at the park, so I don't think that will be too much of a problem.
Okay, awesome. I also wanted to ask, so would it be like formal lessons that will be scheduled all through the year once it's ready to go? Or would it be just parents show up and then try to teach their kids? Or how do we plan to structure the teaching?
Yeah, so there would be some formal lesson opportunities at the traffic garden dispersed throughout the year, and that would be run by the Safe Routes to School program. And then there could also be like formal lessons from like private classes. But like when the space isn't being used for that, then people would like come in and try to do it themselves and teach their kids. So.
Okay. Congratulations. I hope the other gun students are able to use it too, so they can bike well.
Yeah.
So all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations. This is absolutely great. It's so much fun to see what you've done and what your plans are for the future. And I, for one, am really interested, as I'm assuming all the other commissioners are, that this gets done before you go off to college. So how can we help you? What do you need from us? And can you talk a little bit more about the operations going forward? Let's assume that it's all done, it's all in place. How does it get operated?
Yeah. So, I would love all of your like support, with the traffic garden ideas, like funding and like making sure that like this, gets done in a timely manner. And, I hope to like, make it happen as fast as possible, like bringing it. I don't know if it has to go like to the city first and get approved by council, but like, making sure that all of that goes smoothly. So the other thing was continued programming for it, right? So like throughout the year, so like there would be lessons associated with the traffic garden that are programmed and taught by like Safe Routes to School, maybe on like Saturdays or things like that. And then the location would also be used during like Bike Palo Alto, for example, either with like as a stop and like an associated lesson, like with that stop, or as we could potentially host Bike Palo Alto at the Ventura Community Center if that is an option. And I've heard that is an option to move the central location of Bike Palo Alto from Fairmeadow to the Ventura Community Center. And then another idea that we had was like back to school biking events as well. So kids can practice biking to school before they have to actually bike to school.
Great. So it sounded like there was a $3,000 gift that somebody had made to begin with, and there's the total cost of what you want to do right now is the $20,000. Am I right about those numbers?
Yes.
And have you spoken to anybody at the Friends of the Palo Alto Parks?
I have not yet spoken.
So let us help you make that happen without promising anything for them, but that's certainly something that they should be definitely aware of. And then I'd be interested to know what the community services staff thinks about this and operating it going forward. So just to say thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Castile, I think it's just a wonderful project. When I first heard about this, coming from as a high school project, and actually stepping out of the envelope and looking at different ways to actually put life experiences into practice, understanding that there may be a problem and an issue out there and trying to resolve it. What a great idea. Very inspirational. I thought it was a very large project when I first took a look at it, and very ambitious. But after speaking with her and just understanding, the excitement towards it, definitely it's something that we are definitely behind and supportive of seeing it move forward. Sarah?
Oh, just echoing what Steve mentioned, but in terms of process, I think is next where she's hoping to secure funding and we can talk next steps about implementation.
And continue to, help guide that along, through the process. Because it's definitely something I think is worthwhile, and I think it's going to really benefit, the community as well.
Vice Chair Freeman?
Yes, Laura, excellent presentation. And I applaud you for the out-of-the-box thinking, but that's kind of the Silicon Valley way. Thought of which this is something that was around about 25 years ago when I was teaching my kids how to be safe on bikes. So thank you for bringing this to our attention. I do have, what are the proposed, I guess, hours of operation for the traffic garden, and how will the access be managed to ensure that it's used appropriately? Have you sort of thought about that?
So that's a good question. I haven't gotten that far yet, but hopefully it would be like a regular park, and making sure that it's used appropriately there. Hopefully there's enough people who use it that that people don't get overconfident that they can deface the space.
And the other question I have, are there any plans for, let's say, structured programs or partnerships with local schools to integrate the traffic garden into their curriculum beyond the initial proposal?
So currently there's not, but I hope that with as the project moves along and gets more tangible, that I hope to reach out to the schools and think about that as well.
And my last question. So I imagine there's a template that you're using, I guess, for this whole project, and each state or even cities or on the traffic side are somewhat different. How much does this align with kind of the bike? And you're working with a number of the different groups anyway, so I assume that it's pretty tightly knitted. Just want to see how that all coming together.
So this traffic garden design is customized to the space. Peter Jensen designed it. And so could you repeat the question?
I'm just trying to see how it aligns with some of the traffic regulations on bike safety, sort of following kind of the California guidelines on bike safety for.
So the traffic garden design does include a lot of the elements that we see, daily riding, and it's meant to function as a normal road, except it's just smaller and only for bikes. So it would comply with all of those things, and it includes some special infrastructure that we see on our roads, on our bike boulevards, the traffic circle. So there's that.
We'll keep up the good work. We definitely support it. So good job.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I didn't think anything.
Last point. Yeah.
We're going to go back around. There's a couple
Okay.
other questions. I didn't think anything was going to top Steve's bathroom picture, but she kind of blew you away, Steve. Really good. My 18-month-old brings me his helmet now, and he goes, because he wants to bike all the time. So I can't wait to take him into the traffic garden. I really liked your play kitchen analogy for bike skills, and it's really sort of an outlet for things to grow and change, because they now have play kitchen things like a Keurig and an air fryer, which is so silly, but now we can add like a double parked Amazon truck into the traffic garden and a speeding Tesla. So I really like the idea that it can grow as traffic, furniture, and street furniture things change throughout the time. Because we've had a couple presentations on the bike master plan. It'd be interesting to see how those roads connect, although you did say that it seems to integrate with the existing bike routes very well. So people can bike to the traffic garden to practice and then bike from it. The funding strategy, I can totally see this as being something very easily funded privately. Just because I think it's something that the community is supportive of. I could see sponsors of any kind, some sort of corporations that want to see improved bike safety, some community partners, businesses, and then maybe even including some sort of maintenance costs in the future for ongoing events. I think you said it was an underutilized asphalt space. What is it currently utilized for? Or is there any sort of organic use for it now for playing games or anything?
So currently the space is blank. There is a little tricycle, like loop-de-loop for the little kids at the preschool. But other than that, there's like no basketball court or like Foursquare things on the pavement. So it would just be used for like, running around on and like games that like kids make up in their head. But the current design makes the space suitable for like the traffic garden and bikes to use, but then because it's just paint on pavement, it allows the space to continue being used for running around and playing.
Great. Sounds like a great opportunity space. And I don't imagine you have, but have you gotten any pushback or concerns throughout this process, or just all support so far?
Yeah, everyone's been really supportive. Everyone who attended our Bike Palo Alto event actually did sign our petition.
Awesome. Great. All right, those are all my questions. We'll go back around, starting with Commissioner Greenfield.
Thank you. This project there's just so many great aspects to be excited about, starting with the benefits to the community and our younger cyclists, and teaching them the rules of the road. It's awesome. The city partnerships, the strong community support, alignment with our master plans, the minimal maintenance plan, and most importantly, it seems to really do a good job integrating a fun element, which is critical, and the route and the crossings. And I think Peter did a great job with that. What are the steps from here moving forward to refine the design? Is this based on input from Payback and other community biking groups?
Yeah, so it would include getting feedback from the design, from like those organizations and the community, as well as looking at our like traffic garden expert and seeing like what how this compares with other already installed traffic gardens, and see if it's like really maximize the use for the space.
Great. And as far as the programming, I assume that the programming you set up will be available online, so it can be accessed via QR code from a sign at the site. So while you'll certainly have structured programs, anyone would be able to walk up and use the site.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's hope.
That's great. And then on funding and the expenses, so $12,500 is budgeted for the contractor installation. Is that painting basically? Is that cleaning the surface and doing the painting? I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, it would be the labor of the contractor, like painting and also like prepping the surface and finishing it.
I've done this, before with other contractors. Basically, it would be sweeping off the surfaces, making sure that's suitable to have the paint adhere to it. And then the most labor intensive is to make sure the layout of it. So it's very labor intensive to actually get it right. And then to have the correct paints, the paints themselves have to be traffic rated, essentially, to stick to the asphalt. So that's where the cost comes in.
Thanks. That's helpful. It sounds simple on the surface, but of course, making it all come out right is pretty important to get that done. As far as funding, I think there's a potential could be done with all outside funding. Is there potential for city funding available? We just gone through our budgeting cycle, so it's not going to be pragmatic to come up with something new, and it's cross-departmental. I don't know if it's Public Works or Transportation or CSD or maybe even public art.
Those are definitely items that we can definitely take a look into. Absolutely.
Great. And that's all I've got. It's fantastic. I'm really very supportive of this, and I'm want to help any way we can to get this done in the immediate time frame we're aiming for. Thank you.
Commissioner Wei?
Yeah, again, commend you for the whole thoroughness of the project, and tag on what Commissioner Freeman and Vice Chair Freeman and the Commissioner Jeff Greenfield about. One is about the school district involvement in terms of training. If you need help, maybe I can connect you with the school district. I wonder whether they can pitch in funding as well. So if you start to talk to them and look into training versus even pilot in one elementary school, you already use the temporary as a space. And the second is detail of the maintenance. So the cost you're looking at, 20K, is for building it. Whether there's maintenance cost, whether they need to be resurfaced 5 years, and is there maybe that's the city staff can help you to figure out maintenance costs as well. That's go down at the weeds on that. Finally, I'm wondering how the youth council we have can be more involved to, make a team. You can maybe lead a project with the youth council leadership and talk to them. I can connect you with the youth council liaison with the city staff there, which is under Kristen's team. And maybe you can look into a team to help you, not just on your own. So there's a Gun High School, Pali, Nueva, and a lot of upper classmen high schoolers there. So that's something you can leverage team efforts. Thanks so much again. It's very exciting and inspiring.
For comments? Commissioner Krebs, do you have? Oh, no.
Yeah, I just one additional one. This might be for the city, and I think it goes back to what Commissioner Ware was saying. The 17,000, that is for one location, right? So are you looking at multiple? Would there be multiple locations?
Right now I'm just trying to get like
Just
one, but
yeah.
hopefully it will lead into more.
So along with that would be, I would assume that once this is up and operational, and I know it'll be a good job, then would the city sort of be responsible for doing maintenance and upkeep? And it goes back to my question about what the operational hours would be, and sort of what who would be sort of monitoring to make sure things are being safely done.
Yeah. So I haven't really gotten that far yet. Hopefully it will become like super awesome that the city like wants to upkeep and maintain it. So hopefully that will happen.
Yeah, just wondering if the city would be sort of the one doing sort of the maintenance like you do with general parks and so forth.
Those are things that we can definitely look into as well. as it progresses a little bit further, we're going to get more details and, how the operation will go, how the scheduling, the outreach and the programming, and we'll all work together on that one.
Okay. And then my last question would be, how will the success and the impact of the traffic garden be measured and evaluated over time? Which I guess there'll be some lessons learned from kind of your initial installation, and then use that to move on to the next one.
Yeah, so we can look at how many people like participate in the traffic garden and how confident they feel like biking before and after they participate. And then hopefully seeing like a reduction in collisions throughout the city as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, go ahead.
One last question for staff. This is a great collaboration, cross-departmental collaboration, Public Works and Transportation and Community Services. Is there one group that has ultimate responsibility for driving and this project forward?
Right now, Peter Jensen has been our main contact who's, been spearheading this project. But as you said, this will be a collaboration. So we'll continue to move forward, basically working with Peter on this one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any final comments? Great. Thank you so much. We don't usually clap, but we'll just give you a little round of applause. Break our own rule.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we hope to see you again soon. Moving on to the next business item, the park improvement ordinance for the Palo Alto Floods Basin Tide Gate structure.
All right. So for the next item of discussion here, I'd like to welcome Valley Water's Deputy Operating Officer, Bhavani Yarapotu, to provide information on the proposed Tide Gate project. Also joining us today are from Valley Water are Carl Newman and Jessica Ariani.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Good evening, commissioners and members of the public. My name is Bhavani Yarapotu. I am the Deputy Operating Officer here at Valley Water, overseeing our flood protection projects division. And I would like to introduce my team in a minute that'll overseeing the project and will give this presentation. First up is Carl Newman, who's our Capital Engineering Unit Manager. He oversees this along with a few other projects. And then Jessica Ariani, he's the Acting Associate Engineer, who's also the project manager for the project. We have a few other Valley Water subject matter experts that you'll probably see on the screen. If you're looking at your computer screen, we have our hydraulics and hydrology folks, essentially the folks that do the modeling. That is Dr. Liang Zhu, and then Emily Zedler. We have our environmental planning folks, Sarah Gedre and Kurt Luneberger. And then we have Gianna Escobar, who's our communications outreach coordinator and the main point of contact for public communications on this project. We also have Erin Baker, who oversees our shoreline protection project, knowing this project and its connection to the sea level rise shoreline protection project. She is a engineering unit manager as well that oversees a whole another set of projects. And with that, I'll turn it over to Carl Newman to kick off this presentation. Carl?
Yes, thank you, Bhavani. Well, I got to say that bike garden presentation is going to be a tough act to follow, but that's okay. We'll be in contact with Nara soon to talk about opportunities. Okay, with that said, we are pleased to present the Palo Alto Flood Basin Tide Gate Structure Project. This is, we're going to be talking about phase 1 today. This is a seismic retrofit and rehabilitation. Next slide, please. So why are we here? First of all, we'd like to provide an update to the commission about this project. Last time the Valley Water was here was about 3 years ago in the summer of 2021, where my colleagues presented a structural replacement project. After further design and further evaluation of the costs became very high. Unfortunately, it became also infeasible to implement. Furthermore, our federal sponsor, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, that was working on the shoreline project, also notified us that they were not going to be able to implement their project until around 2060. And we wanted to make sure we align the two projects because at one point they were talking about moving the levee alignment. And so it was really important that that new tide gate structure is also aligned with the levee. So that was another important fact. Now that we know that we're not going to be moving forward with the structural replacement project for some time, our focus is really on to extend the design life of the existing structure to make sure that it can withstand an earthquake and any other risks that may happen over the next 40 years when we expect the Army Corps to be able to pick the project back up again. So today we're really here to talk about the current project for this tide gate structure. And also this is part of the process for seeking a recommendation by the City Council to approve this park improvement ordinance. Next slide, please. A little bit of background about the tide gate structure. This was built in 1957, really prior to when seismic codes have really developed for current structures. The Palo Alto flood basin provides flood protection for the three rivers that flow into the flood basin, as well as coastal flood protection from high tide waters coming in from the bay. The city of Palo Alto, they operate one of 15 gates. It's called the sluice gate, and that sluice gate is used to move water from the bay into the flood basin. This is something that was built several years ago by Palo Alto as part of our permit condition. The tide gate structure also is part of the Adobe Creek levee trail and the SF Bay Trail, and it provides a bridge between the two levees for pedestrians and bikers. And then the main function, as I mentioned, of the gate is to hold out tide water when there's high tide and allow the basin to drain, as I mentioned, because of the three creeks during low tide. Next slide, please. So here's a map of the project location. You can, in green, that's highlighted, that's the Palo Alto flood basin. As I mentioned, there's three creeks that flow into it: Matadero Creek, Adobe Creek, and Barron Creek. To the south is Permanente Creek, and to the north is San Francisco Creek. And then the tide gate itself is within Bixby Park. The red circle in the north part of the map shows the location of the tide gate structure. Next slide, please. So this project itself, we call it phase one. One of the main functions is to, in order to extend the life of the structure that was built in 1957, we really need to do a seismic retrofit. Seismic codes have changed a lot since 1957, and so our engineers have come up with a plan to do just that, to bring up the seismic code so that it doesn't fail in a large earthquake. We've done a risk analysis for the project, and we feel that a large earthquake could be the biggest risk to the project. It's founded on some wooden timber piles. In our analysis, a large earthquake could damage the connection between the timber piles and the foundation of the tide gate structure, potentially causing either settlement or some kind of lateral displacement, and that could affect the way that the flap gates that are currently there open and close, and that would potentially be the biggest risk in terms of flooding, potentially the flood basin itself, also some coastal flooding, and that would inundate the current habitat that's there in the flood basin. And so This project itself, if there was some structural damage, it would require a closure of that trail in order to fix it and repair it to a condition that could be still used. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit of the project objectives. This is a phase 1 work that we're working on right now to retrofit the existing tide gate structure to reduce seismic vulnerabilities. The structure has also been exposed to some pretty harsh conditions there, being so close to the bay and salty air. So the concrete has been spalling. There's some corrosion with the existing steel that's been exposed in the structure itself. So we have come up with a way to rehabilitate the structure as well, the concrete outer surfacing, and that'll extend the life of the project about 30 to 40 years when you expect the Army Corps to be able to pick the replacement project back up again. And as I mentioned, what we call the future project, that's what we call phase 2, and that's the full replacement. But we do need to align with the Army Corps of Engineers when they do pick it up again. Next slide, please. Benefits of the project, continued flood protection from the bay and coastal flood protection, continue to be able to use the Adobe Creek Trail, which is used quite a bit, improve the surface of the tide gate structure with the Jessica's going to be talking about that later on, and also improve the safety. It's heavily used by bikers, so we've come up with a way to improve the safety. And then continued flood protection from the rivers for the wildlife and the habitat that are currently using that flood basin. And then we also plan to make some improvements for our own maintenance purposes in the trash racks, and that would reduce any trail closures when our operation staff do need to get out there and maintain these structures. A lot of times in the wintertime, we'll get a lot of debris that gets caught up in the trash racks, and we have to bring our staff out there so it doesn't cause flooding, replace parts, that kind of thing. Next slide, please. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica Ariana to talk about the structure itself.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Good evening, commissioners, city staff, and members of the public. So I'm going to start the presentation with this existing tide gate structure condition. So I would like to direct your attention to the left-hand side picture first. So in this picture, this is like the view if you come to the tide gate structure from the east end. So on the left-hand side will be the basin side, and on the right-hand side will be the bay side. And the first item that I would like to talk about is the deck. So currently the deck have some spot concrete and then spots. So basically if you walk there or you bike there, it's not smooth. And then the second part is the fence. The current height of the fence is 42 inches, which is substandard for bicyclist safety. And then there's some area that are circled in like red. So it's like basically it could use some barriers there. So if you're on the deck and then you go to the left-hand side, look down on the basin side, you will see a picture of like something that's like on the right-hand side picture. So this is it shows a zoom in picture of like the trash rack and also the side of the tide gate structure. And you can see there's some spot concrete and corroded steel reinforcement there exposed there. And then regarding the trash rack, the point that we would like to mention here is when staff needs to go under the deck, currently the only way to do that is to lift up the trash rack. However, in the efforts to coordinate just to lift up the trash rack and then bring like a crane to lift it up, and it takes extensive efforts, coordination. It can take up to 2 months. And also once just to lift up the trash rack, we have to close the trail at least like half a day, but it could be 1 day. So it's very disruptive to the public. So keeping this in mind, let's go to the next slide, please. So this is the work elements for this retrofit and rehabilitation project. So the first element is the spall. It's for the deck. It's the spall repair and polyester polymer concrete overlay on the deck surface. So we will patch up the the concrete walls, and also we will overlay it with what it's called PPC. But I will have a different slide on this. So for now, I'm going to move on to the rehabilitation element 2. The second rehabilitation element is the fence. So again, like currently it's 42 inches, but we will raise it up to 54 inches to enhance safety for bicyclists. And at the end, the tail end of the fence, we will also add that little tail, so to enhance safety. And then lastly, the finish, instead of the current galvanized steel, we will use the black vinyl finish as requested by the city of Palo Alto. And the third rehabilitation element is that maintenance access creation, so that we can access below the deck area without having to do the extensive coordination and then close like the trail. And those are the 3 rehabilitation elements. And there is one retrofit element, which is the deep foundation system. This is on each end of the structure. And I will have, let's go to the next slide, please. So this is more detailed view of like the deep foundation. So we have 2 images here. They're essentially the same images. The only difference just on the left-hand side, the levee is shown. So you will see what it looks like when it's finished. And on the right-hand side, we kind of turn off the levee. So you will see what's inside. So this deep foundation system, there consists of 2 reinforced concrete piles. And then we will cap it with a rectangular concrete. And then there will be like dowels, so to positively connect to the existing structure. What this deep foundation does is basically it increases the entire system's stiffness, so that during like seismic event, it's not going to displace as much, and it meets the current design standard, because this original structure was constructed in 1957. Next slide, please. So this is that one slide about the polyester polymer concrete overlay. It's essentially paving material. It's like a mix of aggregate and hardened polyester resin. This PPC is typically used in like roads or bridges project. It basically improves the surface of that suffers from like excessive like tire wear. And then once it's applied, it will improve the durability of the surface. It typically lasts for like roads and bridges project. It typically lasts 15 to 20 years. However, for our project, we expect it to last for like 30 plus years, because the tight gauge structure is most likely used by like, it's mostly foot traffic or like bicyclist traffic. And then on this slide also, we provide some examples of like a local project that utilizes the PPC overlay. This is Cropley Avenue overpass above Highway 680. It's on the North Berries area. So you can see how it looks before and after. It just looks like a roadway surface. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the project schedule. So currently we're in June 2024. Summer 2024, we're at 90% design. So coming in fall, we plan on obtaining the environmental permits and complete the SICA addendum process. And then at the same time, on the design side, we plan to complete 100% design. Come spring 2025, we plan to advertise and award the contract. And then about a year from now, summer 2025, Valley Water plan to issue the notice to proceed. And then the construction on site will occur from the beginning of September 2025 to the end of January 2026. So that's a 5-month window, a full 5 month. We plan to finish construction in winter 2026. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the construction impact, specifically the trail closure. Like on this slide, I have a map here. So let's take a look at the map. The project location is the one with the yellow dot there in the top middle of the map. And then next to it, there are some trail portion that are marked in red. It's approximately 0.8 miles. And this segment will be closed during construction, the 5 months window of construction, September 1st, 2025 to January 31st, 2026. Now for the remaining, another point that I would like to make also, it's not just closed during construction hours, it will be closed completely. So, and then for the remaining trail that are marked in green, they will be open during construction for trail users. However, what I would like to point out, we think some trail users, they enjoy going on a full Adobe Creek loop. However, because of like the red portion, that would not be possible during that 5-month window. And then the trail users during construction, they can expect occasional construction traffics. And then the work hours will be from Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the 7 a.m. it's only if we get like a noise exception permit from the city. Otherwise, we have to abide by the noise ordinance to start at 8 a.m. And then signage will be posted in the trail. Next slide, please. And to communicate about the trail closure, here are our plan for public outreach. First, we will plan on having a pre-construction public meeting, and also the main construction signage will be installed. Also at like access points for the trail, we would put like some A-frame with the project QR code, and also we will have like the trail closure maps. And then this information will also be available on project website, social media posts, Nextdoor, and also we plan to send some postcard mailers. In 2020, we sent out about like a postcard mailers to about like 5,000 residents. We plan to do the same within like that same radius. And also, we also plan to email to interested parties. And by interested parties, some examples is like a trail advocates, and then Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition, city bicycle coordinators. Those are some examples of the interested parties. And next slide, please. So this slide will talk about the anticipated construction traffic route. So we have 2 access points. One of them is from the Bixby Park parking lot. There's a gate next to the parking lot at Bixby Park. That's part of like the pink trail, pink route that's highlighted there. It's going through the Embarcadero Road. So that's one of them. And then the other one is on the San Antonio gate. And then but the majority of the construction traffic will utilize the pink road, the one from Embarcadero. The only time that we think we use the San Antonio road is when the heavy equipment will demobilize to install like the deep foundation, because they cannot drive over the tight gate. It's too heavy. And then during demobilization of heavy equipment, we also plan to have some flaggers for public safety. Next slide, please. So these are some efforts that we plan to minimize trail impacts. We are working with our geotechnical consultant to set weight limits for trucks and equipment. And then we will also plan to limit truck and equipment usage after significant rain. An additional point I would like to make to this second bullet is that mainly the trucks and the heavy equipment will be utilized for like the retrofit portion of the project. So we will work with the contractor. We will direct them to basically finish that portion of the work as soon as possible, because usually rain starts kind of like late October. So we're hoping for that major work to finish hopefully by the end of October. Yeah. And then also at the end of the project, the contractor will have to restore the levee trail surface to pre-construction conditions as documented by the pre-construction survey. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk environmental. So the project is located in a unique setting along the bay with sensitive fish and wildlife species. We also have like several habitat, like salt marsh habitat, San Francisco Bay, and the Palo Alto Flood Basin habitat. The project's also located in the Adobe Creek Loop Trail, part of the San Francisco Bay Trail, and in Bixby Park and Palo Alto Baylands. Next slide, please. So because of this unique setting, these are some of our efforts to minimize the environmental impacts. The first one is the work window that we selected, the September to January. That is so that it's outside the Ridgway's rail nesting season. And by scheduling work outside the Ridgway's rail nesting season, it's also applicable to like other birds in the area. And then we also plan to work the work hours during civil twilight hours only, because we do not plan on putting outdoor lighting. We will also install environmentally sensitive area fencing. And then with this project, there will be no direct impact to salt marsh. And then we do not plan on dewatering. There will be a noise limitation for this project, and then a full-time biologist will be required to be on site. And in general, we will implement like best management practices. Next slide, please. Okay, regarding environmental, the CEQA and the permitting part. So the original replacement project had a CEQA MND, mitigated negative declaration. It was adopted in April 2021, and a copy of it is available on our project website. So the plan is to submit an addendum to the MND this summer, because basically the project has been scaled back, and then changes to the project will not result in like a new significant impact, or it will not increase the severity of like the already disclosed impacts. That's the reason. And then as far as environmental permits, there are these 6 agencies. We plan to seek permits from the 6 agencies listed here: Army Corps of Engineers, CDFW, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and then the NOAA, that's the NIMS Section 7, and then California Water Board, and BCDC. Next slide, please. Okay, we're already towards the end of the presentation, so I would like to turn this back to Carl.
Okay, so we currently perform annual structure assessments, underwater inspections every 4 years, and our O&M staff keep up with minor maintenance work. And we plan to continue that work even after the improvements have been completed, because most of those improvements are superficial. And so we're still concerned about the existing structure, the old structure that we're not improving. So we'll continue to do those annual structural assessments and do that through the life of the existing structure. Next slide, please. If anybody would like to see any of these reports or documents, we, as Jessica mentioned, we have a project website on our Valley Water website for the Palo Alto Flood Basin Tide Gates. Here's our contact information: project manager Peter Park, and then our Office of Public Information. Our neighborhood liaison is Gianna Escobar, and there's her email address. Next slide, please. And that concludes our presentation, and we are available for any questions.
Thank you so much. Before we go to the commission, we'll take public comment on this item. Javad, are there any raised hands for this item?
I'm seeing no hands raised in person. If any speakers are looking to talk online, please raise your hand. I do have one. Eileen, you are our first speaker. You've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. This is Eileen McLaughlin with Citizens Committee to Complete the Refuge. And I'm following up with the question that I sent by email yesterday. And I know I got an email from Bhavani saying there would be some information put in about what exactly were the, what exactly might happen, or not, I suppose it can't be exact, but what might happen if this gate failed before any work was done to what is the purpose that it is protecting Palo Alto from? What extent of damage could happen to the flood basin? And what extent is there danger of it impeding the flow of the streams that run into it, such that it might go across the other side of 101? So I was wondering if there could be any better information on that. I was hoping to see maybe a slide or something on that might demonstrate the risk. Thank you.
Through the chair, if I may take that response.
Mm-hmm.
If I can go back to the slide there that talked about the seismic and risks,
we're just going to go to the commission, and we can feed it back for you once we take some other commissioner questions. So that's okay. Are there any other public comments?
I'm seeing no more hands raised online or in person.
Great, thank you. All right, let's close public comment and go to the commission for questions. We'll begin with the ad hoc liaison, Commissioner Greenfield.
Thank you. I want to thank Valley Water for the presentation this evening. I want to thank them as well for the collaboration, working with the community of local environmental stakeholders. We were out for a public meeting on site a few months ago, and I want to thank staff for participating in that as well. I'll go ahead and I'm interested in a question that Eileen has asked, if Valley Water would be able to answer that for continuity purposes here.
So if to go back to the slide that she was requesting.
Yeah, I would like that, and I'll turn it over to staff in a minute, just tee that up. So to respond to that question, I think the question asked was, what is the seismic risk and what would happen if there was a seismic event that could damage the structure? A couple things. The gates could be stuck open, allowing bay water to enter into the basin, or it could be stuck closed, preventing that water from backing out, which also basically means that the basin is not going to be functioning that way it was. The specific hydraulic risks and stuff, I know Jessica had some additional points. So Jessica, do you want to take it? And then we'll see if our hydraulics folks need to add anything. So go ahead and respond to that, please.
Okay. So like regarding like if there's a large earthquake, we think that like the biggest risk, it could damage the connection between the top of the structure and the timber piles. So maybe the structure either like settle or like it moves, and then so it's preventing the flap gates to either properly close or properly open. So if it's stuck open, so basically it will allow the water from the bay to enter the flood basin, and then it eventually will back up to the creek, to the narrow channel of the creek. So that's the risk, the flooding risk. And also if it's stuck closed, similarly, the water from like the three creeks, the Matadero, Barron, and Adobe, it cannot exit the flood basin. So in the end, it also like backs up to the narrow creek of the channel. And then if it backs up, and then it's gonna flood the flood basin habitat that's inside, and also of course like the maybe 400 to 700 parcels and US Highway 101, because we constructed this constructed this existing tide gate in 1957 as a response to a Christmas flooding in 1955. So.
Thank you. Appreciate the technical expertise that Valley Water is providing in assessing the risk here. It's obviously I think that speaks to the importance of the project and the need to move forward. Originally, this project was a full replacement. That didn't happen for reasons that you've outlined. So we're now in a project to extend the life of the existing tide gate. And so a question I have for staff is, has Public Works Engineering or has staff done an assessment of the risks and the assessment of the restoration plan? And is this something that staff is comfortable with? I feel safe to say that the commission doesn't have the expertise to assess this, so we're looking for staff input.
Maybe I'll tee that off. If there is further information, we'll have staff answer. Yes, the rehab scope of work is addressing the highest risks, and seismic vulnerability is the highest risk that was identified. The other elements of the project, which is repairing the concrete spalling and the safety elements, obviously are going to add to the life of the project, extending that. In addition, as Carl mentioned, there will be annual inspections, and then every 5 years, we're also going underwater to do underwater inspections as well. So it's not like we'll be doing this and walk away. There'll be ongoing inspections to make sure that the structure is not deteriorating further. So.
Thanks, but this is really a question for staff to their assessment of Valley Water's plan. This is a question asked before and looking for feedback on.
So we worked very collaboratively with Valley Water, over the last several months, and even before that, since I've been here. I've taken a look at the designs, the plans. We've had multiple meetings, and They've been very receptive to our, comments and input with the materials that they're putting in there, how they proceed to do the work, with the sensitivity that we've brought about with our habitat, the trails, when they're going to do the work. They've been really good partners in that, and they've been very amenable to meeting the expectations that we had for this project. I think it's going to be a good project.
Thank you. I appreciate that Valley Water has been very, very responsive, and I think that there's a lot of work that's been done for this plan and previous plans to minimize the impact on the community, minimize the trail closures, et cetera. My question is, has Public Works Engineering assessed the plan?
They have as well.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I'm really trying to understand. Thank you. There's also been a question raised. This is really a question for staff, I think, again, about been raised by Emily Renzel, former council member, who was involved with the original mitigations in 77, 78 that led to the sluice gate being created, and recent concerns about the operation of the sluice gate being compromised. And so are we currently in compliance with the mitigation requirements from the original Army Corps of Construction?
From the research that we've done pretty much of a deep dive as of late. As you were mentioning, the sluice gate has not been in operation for some time. But through that, we haven't seen any noticeable difference in, observational for water quality over the years that we have had out there. And we believe that we are in compliance, basically, and met our obligations from the mitigation. However, we're going to reach out to the regulatory agencies to make sure of this, to confirm that we are doing the right thing and we're following the mitigation as designed. And we should be able to report back out on that.
That's great. That's great to hear. I know we're taking measurements. I know that there's certainly a best effort to operate it as best possible. And I think there's a very legitimate concern that this is a one-time opportunity. Right now, the work on the tide gate doesn't come around very often. And if we're not in compliance with something that we need to be in compliance with, we want to make sure that steps are taken at this time when this is on the agenda and on people's mind, to make sure everything's taken care of. And based on previous conversations with Valley Water and staff, it sounds like this is more on staff than Valley Water in terms of where it would fit in the project.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Just a couple quick questions. The biologist will be on site. Does this mean the biologist is on site from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. during all construction hours, or whenever there's construction?
Yes, that's correct. Well, our contractor will hire a biologist to have them on site at all times. Valley Water, we also have our biologists. We initially do a survey of the site before we turn it over to the contractor to identify any existing biological conditions out there. But and then once we turn it over to the contractor's biologist, they're still involved. Our Valley Water biologists are still involved every step of the way to evaluate the reports and any sort of special conditions that may come up.
Okay. And regarding the potential for a noise exemption to have the permitted operating hours of 7 a.m., is this common for a construction project in an open space, a natural environment to receive a noise exception for construction? Are there any environmental concerns with this? Is really what my question is.
Hi, Kristen O'Kane, Community Services Director. So we will talk to our planning department and also development services to confirm this. I'm trying to think of the last construction project we might have done in the Baylands and whether we needed one, and I can't recall what that might be. So we'll make sure that we're following up with the appropriate people.
Great, thank you. Again, I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate the collaborative approach of working to meet in advance to review things. I think there's been some great improvements, but punching points, and hope that I think the commission appreciates.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from commissioners? Commissioner White?
Yeah, I really appreciate your presentation and very thorough. And yeah, as Commissioner Greenfield said, we not really have the expertise, but I heard the material you use, polyester polymer concrete, is a good sustainable material and have positive environmental impact. Would like to learn a little bit more on that and how that also you brought into the surrounding area of, the habitat as well.
Regarding the PPC, when we put it in overlay, we will make sure we have like edges so that it doesn't basically goes to the water. But more information about the environmental, we're still looking into it. And at this point, I don't have like enough information to provide. However, like we make sure basically during the application it's not going to touch the water. There will be like and then also a temporary containment system during the application and also on the side, on the edges.
Yeah, I
But
do
it's
understand it's
typically,
better than the traditional concrete, right?
yeah, it's similar to concrete, and then it's been used in like bridges and like, over the water bridges and stuff.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you.
Commissioner Oche?
Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you so much for a great presentation. I am a visual learner, so I really appreciate your pictures and, all the things that you add, and I'm going to copy how you styled your presentation as well. I would like to clarify, how often does the trash rack need, besides construction or for the project, how often do we need to clean it?
Well, yeah, it really depends on how much, large flow events we get, rain events we get. That's usually when we see debris, pick up during the wintertime. I don't have an exact number, but we could expect to be out there and remove debris from the trash racks through usually around middle of October all the way until April timeframe. And so that would be the time frame, but I don't have a number. I think last year I recall at least 2 times that we were out there. But our maintenance crews are out there all year to do work. Either it's replacing items, sometimes it's exercising the gates, checking the seal, that kind of thing.
So there's no structured cadence or frequency. It's just like an annual maintenance. Is that what I hear?
Yeah, it's really annual maintenance.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over the entire year.
Okay. Thank you so much. I also when you showed the schedule, I wasn't too sure what happens between January 2026 and winter 2026. There was a kind of like a gap, I believe.
Oh, yeah. I'll answer that question. So the nesting season for the Ridgway rail and a lot of other nesting birds usually ends at the end of January. And so that's when we're going to be stopping any activities that would potentially impact that nesting. And so what we plan to do outside of that is we're going to be doing some planting, what we call mitigation, to offset the impacts of the construction nearby the project site. In one of our staging areas, we're going to be putting in plants there, and that's going to be really done by hand. And that wouldn't be as much of an impact on birds and that kind of thing. We'll still do bird surveys before we do that work, but it's much less impactful because it's all done by hand.
Okay.
And we'll be installing irrigation, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you so much. So you mentioned following or implementing best management practices. Do you have anyone in particular? I was hoping I would see, I know you had something on noise. I was hoping I would see something about idling, like for your
About
trucks.
idling?
Yes.
Yes, we do. We in our specifications, which is one of our contract documents, we put in provisions in there that the contractor can't arrive too early or stay around too late. Sometimes we get a lot of contractors that like to queue in beforehand so that they can get more trips. So we have provisions where they're not allowed to show up too early and cause noise and idle, basically. So we do have those provisions in place. Other BMPs that we use are because we're going to be doing construction during the wintertime, the rainy season, for stormwater and water quality, that kind of thing, to ensure that we don't have a lot of erosion, soil erosion going into the bay, going into the creeks, that kind of thing. Other BMPs are just site maintenance, that kind of thing. Like using water on the roadways to make sure that there's not too much dust. We have BMPs for noise. We're going to be doing noise monitoring and vibration monitoring throughout the project as well. So those kinds of things.
Yeah, thank you. I remember the resident who spoke earlier talked about her second question was an email. Sorry. The second question from the resident who wrote, Eileen, I believe, also talked about water quality. I'm not sure if that has been answered yet. Did we miss it? I know in her email, she mentioned asking the city staff about water quality.
So in the question referenced, it would be water quality of the current conditions which are in there. My understanding from the mitigation of the sluice gate installation was that there was supposed to be salt water that would be reestablishing a salt marsh area. So water quality would be referencing the blending of water between water coming in and the bay. In order to get that information, we would just need to do some more research into that and work with our other departments to get that data for you.
And I also want to say a big thank you to you, Sarah, for responding to another email that a resident wrote. That was really awesome. Thank you. That's it from me.
Commissioner Cribbs?
Oh, yes, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. There seemed to be more information or different information in the one that you just showed us, and I wonder if that would be posted someplace or you could send it out.
All of the presentations will be posted after the meeting, correct? Onto the agenda, correct, Javad?
Yep. And I can send you the presentation directly.
That would be great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I especially like the list of how you were planning to communicate with residents and interested parties. I thought that was a really great list. And at the end, I think the final line was email and other mail to interested parties. And I wanted to know specifically how one got to be an interested party. Is that by signing up on the website or some other way? I'm just interested in the email list that you might have.
I think we'll have Gianna take that response. Gianna?
Yes, I can do that. Thank you, Bhavani. So yeah, there's several ways that you can become an interested party. We have stakeholder lists from past projects that we've worked on in the Baylands and in Palo Alto. So we already have a running list of that. If you would like to be added to a list, I can absolutely add you. And then we'll be working with our OGR team for stakeholders in the area, and they will all be added as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And then my final question is very simple. It's just about the biologist that you spoke about that was on site. Is that the biologist from Valley Water, or is it a third-party contractor, part of the contracting organization, or is it a city biologist? What?
So in terms of the actual work, like when work starts, the contractor's working, they'll have their own biologist, but Valley Water biologists will also be monitoring the contractor's work.
I see. Thank you very much.
And when we before we turn the site over to the contractor, we do our initial survey to find out if there's any nesting birds that are already there, if there's any other sensitive habitat that we need to keep tabs of, and then we transfer that information over to the contractor so that they can monitor going forward.
Great. Thank you so very much.
Real quick, could I add, is it possible to make sure there's a link on our website, on the Parks and Rec webpage on how to subscribe for information on this?
We could do that, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Javad.
Vice Chair Freeman?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for a very thorough report that actually sort of nullified about 70% of my questions. So it's good. You did a good job on that. I do have, well, one is, so this work is going to start, I think it's September to January, which is a pretty high period of time when we will have a lot of rain possibly. Wondering if you have kind of taken that into consideration by looking at some of the past
rainfall and how that will impact your schedule?
Yes, we have. Jessica mentioned in her presentation that we plan to have the the most ground disturbing activities done first from September through October 15th, and that would be the deep foundations, and that's where we're expecting the contractor to really work fast and make sure they get it done by October 15th, and that'll minimize any disturbance to water quality in the area. But along the way, the contractor will be required to put in any kind of stormwater controls so that if there is a rain event, that they have to have these things in place, these BMPs in place, so that it doesn't cause any erosion and impact water quality.
Okay. And it sounds like this is a very urgent project, I guess. And as I was reading that, it goes back to kind of what are some of the, I guess, the possible risks to the flood basin and adjacent developed facilities and infrastructure if the existing tide gate structure fails during a seismic event. I mean, and then what the impact would be on creeks such as the Adobe and Matadero creeks, which could potentially, I guess, upstream affect residential areas in the 101 freeway and so forth.
Yes, that's correct. We do recognize the risk and would like to move forward with this project as soon as possible to mitigate that risk and lessen the risk for the next 30 to 40 years.
Okay. And then my last question, I guess, deals with, again, going back to the seismic. Can you provide more detail on the seismic retrofit measures being implemented in phase one of the project?
Yeah, well, if we could show you the slide that has a 3D presentation of the deep foundation, that is the main retrofit element of the project. So we're going to be building a deep foundation, if you can see here in the slide on the right part of the presentation. Excuse me, that's called a pile foundation. Basically, what our contractor will do is auger down, create sort of this cylindrical sort of excavation, and then put in a steel reinforcement, and then backfill it with concrete. And this will be at a depth, I think it's about 60 to 70 feet. 50 feet. And then, so there'll be two of those foundations. And at the very top, we call this a pile cap, and that's to tie in both of the D foundations. And then we'll connect that to the existing structure so that as a system, it can handle any large earthquake as the ground is moving. It provides a lot more stiffness to the overall structure.
Okay.
And there was a comment by one of the residents asking about liquefaction. Our design does take into account liquefaction. We have evaluated that, and we understand that that is a problem here. And this deep foundation does take into account liquefaction problems.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you again for the explanations and very thorough presentation.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yes, thank you. It was a very thorough presentation. I kept writing down questions and you guys kept answering them within 90 seconds when I write it down. Just to touch a little bit more on the construction schedule with all of the environmental constraints and potential rainy season, are we working with a very narrow window here, or is there flexibility and contingency plans? You don't need to go into detail of alternative dates or anything, but I assume that's factored into your planning.
We are constrained by our permitting agencies and the nesting season, which is the ridgeway rail is the most, I guess, critical habitat in the area. And so to work outside of that nesting habitat, this is what we've been informed by our regulatory agencies like California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Regional Board, that this would be our window to work in. So unfortunately, anything outside of that is we wouldn't be allowed to do the work. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, that's helpful. And then the piles themselves, are those disruptive to the environment around them for the installation in terms of noise and vibrations?
So we took that into consideration as well. These foundations aren't driven. They don't create any kind of impact or any percussion or vibration. They're used with an auger basically, and so the auger is very low noise, very low vibrations as it's augered into place, and then the soil is basically removed. And as quick as they remove the soil, they put in the steel reinforcement and the concrete, and then it's from there, it's just a matter of curing the concrete.
Okay, great. That sounds great. And then just to echo Commissioner Cribb's comments about the interested parties and community groups, anything this commission can do to support any outreach efforts, we're more than happy to help spread the word.
Yeah, one thing that we forgot to mention is that we are planning to do a design update public outreach meeting in the fall of this year, just to let before we go to construction, so that residents and anybody in the immediate area also know of our plans, and to inform them of why we're doing this project as we are here today for the same purposes.
Great, thank you. And then this is a discussion item only for this evening. It will come back as an action for the full commission at a later meeting. Are there any other closing comments or questions, Commissioner Greenfield?
One follow-up question regarding the contract biologist. Will this person report to the construction contractor?
Yeah, so the contractor's biologist, so the requirements by CDFW is that they have to approve the contractor's biologist. So they'll submit their resumes. Valley Water will first look at them, and then we'll submit them to California Department of Fish and Wildlife. So they have to be also approved by the regulatory agency that oversees, that is jurisdiction over the habitat and the environment. And so, but they are a third party. They're usually a consultant.
Sure. My question really is it a best management practice or BMP for the biologist to report to the contractor that they're overseeing, as opposed to reporting directly to Valley Water?
It's more of Valley Water practice to have the contractor hire them, but we also do, our own biologist does provide oversight over the contractor's biologist as well. We review all the reports, we review the recommendations, and if we concur with them, then we allow those reports to go forward to like CDFW and the regulatory agencies.
Okay, not to be cynical, but it seems like if you're having someone report to the agency that they're trying to regulate, that potential conflict.
Sorry, I understand the comment, conflict of interest, that kind of thing. So if that is a concern, we'll be willing to work with this commission on that.
I would defer to staff on that.
We'll be working closely with Valley Water just to ensure that any concerns will be addressed.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Yes.
I just have another follow-up on the community engagement and feedback. So appreciate the fact that you're going to be using Nextdoor and other social media. How far in advance will that take place? And then the other question is whether or not how will the community be kept informed of the construction process, and what opportunities will there be for providing feedback?
I'll answer the question about informing the community about the construction progress. So we'll go out to the community just before construction and do a pre-construction meeting to let them know the potential impacts during this project, the dates, what's going to happen. In terms of the other question, I'm going to defer to Gianna Escobar on that one.
Yeah, so to answer the question about the frequency of notifications, so as Carl mentioned, we will have the pre-construction meeting, and then throughout the process and any highlights of big construction that goes on, we'll make sure to send out Nextdoors of any movement or change in construction. We'll also be able to do some other social media posts along with mailers if need be, and constant contact email addresses. So we'll be able to do that throughout the process. It's not a one and done type of approach. It'll be sprinkled throughout the entire construction period, especially if there's anything out of the ordinary in the construction that's going on.
Okay, good. That's pretty much where I was going with that. Wasn't a one and done type thing, so I appreciate
No, no, it's absolutely not a one and done.
that. Okay, thank you.
And I'd also like to add that we'll be installing project signs out there that'll have like QR codes, contact information, who they can call at Valley Water, such as myself or Gianna, that kind of thing. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you again for the presentation, and we will see you or some of you again for the action when it comes back to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks. We'll move on to the Community Services Fiscal Year 2025 adopted budget.
Great. And at this time, I'd like to welcome our Director of Community Service, Kristen O'Kane, to discuss the Community Services Fiscal Year 2025 adopted budget.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Kristen O'Kane. So I'm not sure if we've done this before at this commission, but we did think it would be helpful just to review some of the recent council actions related to our fiscal year 25 budget. I'll do a brief high-level summary of the department as a whole, and then focus in on budget-related actions that are specific to parks, open space, golf, and recreation. So Javad, next slide, please. So this is the CSD fiscal year 25 budget overview. This is just for operating expenses and revenues. So our full-time headcount is in fiscal year 25 will be just over 87 full-time equivalent employees and 53 hourly full-time equivalent employees. As you can imagine, we hire many more hourly staff during the summertime. I think we onboarded over 70 individuals to help with our summer camps this year. So this number reflects full-time equivalent positions. So if we add all those up, that's it would equal about 53 full-time staff. Our expenditures in fiscal year 25 for the department is almost $41 million, and our revenues are our budgeted revenues, expected revenues are 14.7 million. This gives us a cost recovery for the department of around 36%. Next slide, please. So the proposed capital budget, this isn't the adopted because I don't have all of these figures to update it from proposed to adopted budget, but the parks and open space capital projects are about $8.2 million, which is just 7% of the overall capital improvement fund for the city. Next slide, please. So since we're talking about capital projects, this is a list of significant projects that we expect to be completed in fiscal year 25. This doesn't include our standard reoccurring projects such as trails, repairs, benches, and things like that. So, and many of these, probably most of these, are going to be managed by the Public Works Department. So there's a full list here. Of note, I would say, is the Baylands Boardwalk piling repair, installation of the Rinconada Pool family changing rooms. So this will provide 2 family changing rooms and restrooms at the pool next to the locker rooms that will be used for individuals who need extra privacy or for families who have children with special needs who may need to have them with them the entire time they're in the locker room. So this is going to be a great project and a great addition to the pool. And there's also some eucalyptus tree removal in open space preserves. This will be the first year of the tree removal project. There are over 100 eucalyptus trees that require or that need to be removed for fire prevention, and this will be the first year in starting that project. A new project added to the CIP is replacement of the starting blocks at the Rinconada Pool, which is anticipated for fiscal year 27. Next slide, please. A new budget items. This one is really exciting. and really looking forward to working on this. So this is conversion of 445 Bryant Street, which has been a commercial space for many years. There was a private gym who utilized the space, rented it from the city. They have not been in the space for quite some time, and the council has recently directed staff to convert the space to a downtown community center. So we will have a lot of our real popular programs and classes will be expanded into this space, including summer camps and a dedicated teen center where we're hoping to have after school and weekend hours for teens to have a safe place to go in the downtown area. We also will have some pop-up events that we're planning and room rentals to companies or individuals who might just need space downtown. And then also important to note is that the downstairs space will be used for senior lunches provided by La Comida. These are free meals to seniors Monday through Friday. So they'll have that space from, I believe it's 10 to 2, Monday through Friday. And then we're planning also on shifting our overnight warming location to this spot where last year was a pilot program to provide space for the unhoused during inclement weather events. It was at the downtown library and we're planning on shifting it to this space. Next slide, please. Also, this one I know is a lot of interest probably from the Parks and Rec Commission is council directed staff to study converting our synthetic turf fields to natural grass. So the way we're going to move forward with this is pause the El Camino synthetic turf replacement CIP, which we were in the process of just about to go out to bid for that project. So we're going to pause that one. The reason being is that we feel we can have another year of play on that field. And instead, we will shift the priority and focus to the Stanford Palo Alto fields, also referred to as the Mayfield fields, in fiscal year 25. Concurrent with that project, we will begin the study. We will have to put a scope together and go out to bid for a consultant to do the study for us. There's some items here listed that would be included in the study to give the council and the PRC the most information possible on whether we should be converting synthetic turf to natural grass. The funds from the El Camino CIP that will be unspent, some of those will be used to fund the study. So, and then if the council directs staff to move forward with the conversion to natural grass, we're thinking right now that the order would be back to El Camino with that replacement occurring first. And then Cubberley, because that's the next field that would be up for replacement, whether it's synthetic or natural grass, it would be time to replace that field. And then we would circle back to Mayfield. So sort of in a phased approach. Next slide. And then these are what we call new work plan items. So they don't necessarily have a real budget, a direct budget change or addition, but the council directed staff to work on these items. So one is review parks restroom prioritization. Really what I think the finance committee was getting at here is how are we prioritizing where restrooms go in our parks? And they also wanted us to focus on Eleanor Pardee Park. As you know, we've done outreach there in the past, which was, we weren't really successful in getting full buy-in from the residents on whether there should be a restroom there, but we will probably start outreach for that location in fall of 2024. And then the funding, if we go forward with that restroom, would be in fiscal year 26. The golf course, there was a question as to whether we've considered offering East Palo Alto resident rates for greens fees. So we're going to explore that. It's likely that this will happen. There is a nuance where so the resident is based on your address, obviously, but there's a zip code that actually is in East Palo Alto and Palo Alto. So this probably is something that might already be happening just because of that zip code overlap. But we'll just continue to explore this and don't anticipate there to be a big budget implication if we go that route. We will bring that to the commission as well, just to get buy-in and any feedback from the commission before we do that. And then finally, the last one is related to our recreation programs. And this was to analyze flexibility in increasing CSD classes to meet demand. And a little background on why this came up is we did request additional funding for our special interest classes and camps. Those are all this is in recreation, they're all contract instructors. And so we have a budget limit on how much we can spend on these contracts, but it really limits us. So examples might be if there's a soccer camp that fills up and then there's a wait list. If the instructor contacts staff and says, we have a lot of interest in this, we want to offer another class, our hands are tied a little bit on just saying, yep, let's do it. So this will give us that ability to offer more programs and classes for adults and kids. So we're excited about that, but we have some work to do also with some of our internal city departments on just related to contract limits and things like that. So it's really a step in the right direction in allowing us to provide more programs and classes more easily and at the time that the need is there. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation. So here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. And we'll begin with taking public comment. If there are
Seeing no
anybody
hands
left.
raised online or in person.
All right, thank you. Bringing it back to the commission for questions and comments for Kristen. Commissioner Cribbs?
Yeah, I would just say, wow, that's quite an extensive list, and I really appreciate getting the detail on the budget because it's sort of hard to sort it out when it's in the newspaper. So thank you so much for doing that. That was really great. Just a couple of things sort of dear to my heart over the past months or years. The family restrooms at Rinconada Park, I think is really going to be wonderful. So I'm happy to see that. And then I was very surprised to see the starting blocks appear. And I know from a swimmer's perspective, it's really necessary because they're have been pretty wobbly, but it's great that they got included. So whoever pushed that through, thank you very much for that part. And then finally, I have a concern about the restrooms, which I mentioned earlier, because of the Magic Bridge and the amount of kids and families who are playing at the Magic Bridge and the inadequate bathrooms there. And I know everybody's aware of that. But it feels like they should get kind of equal treatment with party. And so I just wanted to mention that I'm concerned about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I just wanted to point out that it was Tim Sheeper from Palo Alto Swim and Sport who said we need the new starting blocks. So he really advocated to get those replaced in the pool. So things like that sometimes fall off our radar that they're needed. So we're glad that he brought it up and said, hey, we need to get this in the CIP. So, and then related to Mitchell restrooms, I agree with you 100%. That's really an important location for restrooms. I think those two can occur concurrently. So we will look at Part E, but we'll also be talking with Public Works and others about the restrooms at Mitchell at the same time.
Thank you.
Great. Other questions, Commissioner Wei?
Thanks so much for the very comprehensive report. And Yeah, looks like you're working with huge amount of big capital project. I want to ask more about the new budget item for the 445 Bryan Street. I'm really excited about that. It's also close to me, and we talked about it with the Mayor's Youth Mental Health and how we can bring more downtown space for them. So want to know a bit more about the time frame and whether there's a need to, remodeling for the purpose of the use and how we're going to get this operational, whether you have budget to do everything before the opening.
So yes, there is budget that was included in the fiscal year 25 proposed budget that was adopted. So the next step is Public Works obviously needs to have some involvement in this. There are improvements that need to be done to the space, including replacing all of the HVAC units, which either aren't functional or barely functional. So Public Works will be assigning a project manager and we'll move forward from there. So the community services staff, we've done a walkthrough of the site and identified our sort of wish list of the type of flooring we would like and things like that. And then La Comida also has visited the site and has certain needs that they will be requesting for serving the meals. So those have been provided to Public Works. And so the next step will be to have them assign a project manager, get design and go out to bid. So we don't quite have the timeline yet. This is all very new, but it is very exciting and hoping to get it going quickly, and we'll keep the commission involved and updated as we move along with the project.
There's no possibility it's opening in the fall semester when, the rising senior is going to fall with applications, a lot of pressure coming to them.
My
That's
apologies.
too fast. Okay.
That is too
2025.
fast. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the other thought is, I don't know whether it was within your scope at all, whether, or maybe the commissioner can act as liaisons across the street from Avenidas. So we've been talking about, cross-generation learning when it's operational 2025, maybe have another conversation, how we can act as a conduit to help the seniors, or the youth to connect with them. So great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Freeman? Your mic's off. Okay.
So on the 445 on Bryant Street Community Center, are we reaching out to the community for input on that? Also, what's the size of that? You mentioned there was a gymnasium in there as well.
So it used to be a gym. It used to be a private gym that had the full space. So it was a commercial gym. And now it's just an empty building. So I'll tell you where we will definitely be reaching out is when we start designing the teen center and what might be needed, what they might want. Definitely will be involving them in getting that finalized. And then of course, La Comida has interest in the space that they will be using. So the intent is really to make it a very flexible and adaptable space like our community centers are. So we could shift from, a floral arranging class to a adult fitness class to a, parents' night out pop-up event in the evening. So that's really the goal, is to have it be as flexible as possible. With the one exception is that the space for the teen center, we're feeling like will be dedicated just for the teens, but still flexibility within that space to do different things. So trying to be very thoughtful about how we design it.
And I know you don't have a crystal ball, maybe you do, but the pause on the soccer fields to do the study, how long do you think that's going to take? That's a lot of, are we looking at 6 months, a year? And then the other question to that would be, what is the wear and tear of our existing fields that while the study goes on, if we looked at the impact of that?
So I think the way we have reordered the projects is appropriate in that, so we feel like of all of our fields, the Mayfield, Stanford, Palo Alto fields are in most need of replacement. So we're moving forward with those right away in fiscal year 25. So that will be replaced with synthetic turf. And it will have the cork infill. At the same time, we'll do the study in fiscal year 25. I'm hoping it takes less than a year to complete. I'm not quite sure what the time frame would be. So the idea then is, we replace Mayfield, we go to do the study, we go to council and ask, or to the commission first, and then council and say, give us the direction on how you'd like us to proceed. Here's the information. And then in a perfect world, the timing would be such that whatever their decision is, we can then go back to El Camino and either replace it with synthetic turf or replace it with natural grass. So I think we have it laid out in such a way that we'll always be working on a field to improve it.
And so we're reaching out to, does the local soccer community know kind of what's happening with that schedule, or?
So, do you want to answer?
Yeah,
that,
we
Steve?
are in communication with the different leagues that are out there and with our recreational component, basically to let them know what the intent is. And the one thing too is that, El Camino definitely will be able to make it through the next year. And the minute that we have funds available, we're going to get right on these and make sure that we're very efficient with how we do this to keep it rolling.
Could we make sure, I think I'm still on the ad hoc for that one.
We are for a while.
Because we haven't received any kind of communications to know what's going on with that. So if you can kind of lock us back into that.
Absolutely.
That would be great. Okay,
You got
thank
it.
you.
Commissioner Krebs?
Yeah, could I just follow that on? I appreciate you saying that, Commissioner or Vice Chair Freeman. And I'm also pleased to see in the report that the study is going to be expanded to the availability of fields and replacement fields if we were to go to grass, and the usability of the fields and how many more fields we might need and what the cost is going to be and how much water we're going to use and all of that. So as long as we're studying something, I'm sure there's other things that we should put in the study, but I'm glad to see that they're listed. So thank you for that.
Commissioner Oche?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you so much for the budget updates. I'm glad that, the recreation program deep dive work that Commissioner Way and I worked on was included. I'm just a little curious onto, what does it entail? Are we going to get someone external to, like a consultant, or what would the next steps be? I'm just curious to know.
Well, so initially, the first step is as of July 1st, we'll have a bigger budget to contract with more instructors to offer more classes. At the same time, so we have very strict limits on our contracting authority. So that would be, when do we have to go out for a public RFP? When do we not have to? Those are things that limit us, because the timing for when we produce the Enjoy catalog really prohibits us from doing, if we did an RFP for an instructor for a class, we would have to start that so far in advance before we can get it into the catalog that it just doesn't work with our schedule. So we're going to work with our internal departments such as purchasing, our contracts team, our legal team, to see how we might be able to revise that if we even can, so that it gives us more flexibility to hire instructional contractors without having to go, with a long public RFP process. So there's no consultant involved. This is all internal processes and conversations that will happen.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm just wondering if we'll be carried along to just have an idea, and if residents will also know, the back, I know there'll be a lot going on in the back end, but just for commissioners to be aware of how we could help. That's all I'm thinking about. I'm just super glad that it was included. So thank you so much for that.
Sure. Yeah, we can keep the commission updated on, what progress we're making and how many additional classes we're able to provide and people that we can reach. So we'll definitely do that.
I think it was a great presentation. Thanks for giving that overview. And I don't know if it was necessarily intentional, but seeing the presentation sort of one after the other, it seems like a very wide scope in terms of stakeholders that are being addressed in this budget, as well as geographically throughout Palo Alto, all ages. So seeing it all together packaged that nicely, it really feels inclusive. So thanks for that. Just going back to your first slide about the positions, because as we noticed, a lot of this comes down to the wonderful staff and their capacity for taking on a lot of these projects. So rather than focusing on the physical space, can you speak a little bit more towards new positions and what needs of the department you were trying to address when making those asks?
Sure. So the increase in positions, so if you look at our proposed operating budget, the number of positions will be different than what I presented here. And that's because we did get some additional positions added for the Junior Museum and Zoo. These are they're zoological assistants, I believe is the official title. We're converting 4 part-time into 4 full-time. And then we're adding 1 full-time guest services position as well. And these came out of a consultant recommendation. The consultant did a business plan for the JMZ.
Thank you. And then I know departments will ask for things. Was there any sort of unmet need that you felt that was shifted or deprioritized just from a staff perspective that you feel should be a focus for the city in the future?
That's a really good question. We always, as departments, have a long list of things so our process starts like in December for the next fiscal year. And the first thing we do is we meet as a team and come up with our list of what we would like to request. And then we might start whittling that down, knowing that that's not all going to go through. But then we do submit a very ambitious list of budget proposals that we would like. And then it narrows down from there. So the way our budget was presented this year is, and last year too, is we have the proposed budget items, and then there's other items that were on the list that were staff proposed but didn't make it into the overall proposed budget because otherwise the budget wouldn't balance, right? So it is included in the Finance Committee presentation, these items. So some of those included things related to some of our special events. So like there's one Twilight concert, it did not get funded for next year, so we'll be doing 5 instead of 6. And the puzzle hunt also did not get funded. So we're looking at how we might be able to move that forward. The puzzle hunt, yeah. And I'm trying to think of what else. There's some things related to like public art and other aspects of the department that didn't get funded. can't recall anything specific off the top of my head, but I'm sure there is something of significance
That's
there.
okay. That's helpful to know that it was presented in that way, and I go check it out. Other questions or comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Greenfield?
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the presentation. I don't think this is something that I've seen staff do before, but it's extremely helpful. Very encouraging. We're really happy to hear that the GMZ got the FTE positions. I know it's definitely a place of need, and it's a great program and great facilities. Really, that'll be supported better. I don't have to say anything about the pool stuff, and Ann's really happy about that, and really happy for everyone. Regarding the soccer fields, I think staff's definitely got it right in terms of prioritizing Mayfield to get that done first. I'm happy to hear that. It sounds like there's a green light now to move forward with Mayfield. Is there a timeline, ballpark timeline associated with that? Are we moving with that right away?
We've already engaged with the designer, so we're moving forward as July is it next week or the week after? So we're hitting the ground running in a sense of getting the design on board and then moving forward with hopefully a co-op process.
And the fall, September, October are busy months. November busy months for the local clubs. In terms of fields usage, would construction be targeted after that, or we're going to coordinate with the local stakeholders, the clubs and the leagues?
We're targeting February.
The thought was basically to minimize the impact that we're going to have on the users of the fields and work outside of their seasons if and when possible, while still keeping the project moving forward.
All right, so December and January would be lighter months for club usage and might be similar weather concern, but if that's a possibility. Is there a possibility to pull that forward a little bit earlier?
We'll take a look into that.
Yeah. And the clubs, I'm sure, will communicate that to you as well. But definitely excellent to know that we're moving forward with that and prioritizing Mayfield over El Camino. On the restrooms, so typically we have a funding for a new restroom every other fiscal year. So this is FY25. And 24 was Bulware, the restroom that got funded. I'm not really sure.
Rinconada, Bulware, and Ramos.
Well, they were Rinconada and Ramos were earlier in the queue somewhere. Anyway.
Oh, you mean that funding?
Yeah, in terms of the CIP. And appreciate the need for a restroom at where do you, in North Palo Alto Parks, where you Eleanor Party, thank you. And it has not been smooth sailing trying to get that going in the past, and hopefully with the new direction we can figure out a way to do it. A quick question I have is, if there were community funding available for an additional restroom, for example, at Mitchell Park, and not that we're usually looking for community funding for restrooms, and I'm not sure how popular that could be, but the finances is just one part of it. Staff support and design support is another component. If there were funding available, would it be possible to have a second restroom constructed in FY26?
I would have to ask Public Works if they have the staff available.
And I would defer to some of the Andy, you have any input on that? Is that something that might be something to pursue, or community funding?
Community funding, yes, I think it is something to pursue, because in my memory, the Magic Bridge was very interested in working together and helping do because it's in everybody's best interest to get that done. And I think if the community knew that that was possible, I think that there would be a lot of a lot of contributors and volunteers.
Is that something that staff thinks would be reasonable to investigate and potentially move forward with? Okay, and I guess an important part of the appeal to the public would be an understanding of when the money would be put to use, and factoring in the construction time and the acquisition time for the restrooms, which I know was blown way out of the water during COVID. I don't know what if we're going with prefab. Or if it will be something else. But in terms of a complete picture to the funding group. And great news on the Bryant Street, the North Palo Alto Community Center. That's really exciting new development. And again, thank you for presenting this.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Thank you again. We'll move on to our last item, which is ad hoc committees and liaison updates. And just before we get started, last meeting, we had decided to continue with the previous ad hoc and liaisons roles while we waited for council to adopt our work plan and sort of formalize our assignments. However, that is a bit delayed, but we will be going to council in August, I believe, to speak to our work plan. So we thought in the meantime, we'll just get moving on our decided work plan and liaison updates. So I know this is different direction than we had proceeded with last month. So we'll take any and all updates that you do have, whichever fiscal year you're working from. Beginning with Commissioner Greenfield.
Thank you. I just want to make a quick comment on the process in terms of, are we going with old ad hocs or new ad hocs, et cetera. This year, since there were no changes to the commission members, it was a little different, but I would suggest that it'd be good to get clarification from City Council. Maybe this is something that can happen in meetings between the chairs and vice chairs and council and staff. But for example, next year, at the end of March, the existing terms expire. Commissioner Cribbs and I are terming out, so we definitely won't be on the commission again. There will be new commissioners appointed. It doesn't seem pragmatic to continue with the existing ad hocs awaiting City Council approval in June for something that'll be set up at the retreat in April. So I would suggest a best practice would be to move forward immediately. And then as far as ad hoc updates, Commissioner Way and I met with Kristen to talk about park dedication and had a good initial meeting. We had a list of 6 or 7 potentials in kind of two different levels of priority. We're taking advantage of the current environment of heightened desire to increase park dedications to offset the potential loss of park space at El Camino Park regarding the Quarry Road Transit Project, which City Council is supporting putting on the ballot as an initiative, making into a ballot initiative. So we're looking forward to good progress on that. Thank you.
Yeah, we're also,
that?
just recoming another meeting in July, right? First week of July.
Yep.
Any other updates, Commissioner Way?
Yeah, for the use updates, Commissioner Ochi and I was looking to recoming a meeting when September when they come back. And currently, basically, we expand the whole use into a bigger, instead of just use council. So bring on board of the Youth Mental Health Initiative, Mayor Stone is driving, and we want to support the potential October Youth Mental Health Summit to bring Youth Council into that. Commissioner Oji, do you have any other updates?
No, I think you covered it all. I just wanted to clarify that Christopher, shed some more light about the scope for our liaison. So the wording before now was youth council, but when we had the meeting, it was changed to youth.
Yeah.
But he said it still remains TAB, that's the Teen Advisory Board, and the Palo Alto Youth Council. So I just wanted to make sure that we are within the scope for liaison. What we had was youth council, but we changed it to youth. So I reached out to them to confirm what the scope was, if it was changed to just youth or to the youth. Would it be extending beyond TAB and Palo Alto Youth Council, or do we still stick to what we had before now? And he said we'll stick to it. So just wanted to bring it to the board to be sure that we are aligned on what the scope of our liaison is.
Great, that's helpful. Thanks for sharing. Any other updates?
It's actually a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying, you're asking the commission to weigh in on whether?
Yes, because I wasn't too sure if it goes, the liaison scope goes beyond just the Teen Advisory Board and the Youth Council. What else is under that umbrella? Do we still continue even though the wording was changed from Youth Council to youth?
My understanding was that it was going to remain the same scope, but I'll allow other commissioners or staff if they have had a different understanding from the retreat. Yeah, Sarah.
My only kind of, I think the liaison role from the discussion I remember at the work plan discussion was that they're a bit broader. So potentially when this is posted on the PRC website, your name will be listed for youth contact under the PRC website. So it's a larger category. So it's not just specific to teen advisory or youth council.
Yeah,
which
that's my
may confuse you more, but
that's how I understood it. But
yeah, I think that's my
not
understanding
it.
too. Yeah. It's just a broader concept of any use. Maybe, high schoolers can contact us for whatever problem they have instead of just the youth council and teen advisory board, right? Is
Right,
that-
within the scope of the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. If they want to sing in the parks and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, I think just because you're a dog park liaison or ad hoc, it doesn't mean you don't get dog questions in general. I mean, it's just more of a general guidepost is sort of how we're going with this work plan and assignments is open for interpretation.
I just want to be sure we are coloring within the lines. The only other additional thing I wanted to report was the TAB and the PAYC have openings, applications open right now that will be ending sometime in August, end of August. And like we, saw one of our young residents, show us the way and lead in a community project. I believe it's an opportunity for other youth members of our community to step up and take up leadership positions as well. So just putting it out there. Yeah.
One thing actually, I just remember that attend the Sibling City event, which our liaison from City Council, Vicky Vinco, was driving this. So I did mention the possibility looking to park with our Sibling City. I think she told me to contact Kristen. I haven't got around to follow up on that. And in the youth aspect as well. So that's might be something if we don't have already a lot on the plate, and that they have a delegation coming October, so something we can prepare to convene with them.
Other reports, Commissioner Cripps?
Thank you. So while we're waiting for the ad hoc council coverly discussion, which will probably not be apparent until August when the council comes back, our ad hoc, so Vice Chair Freeman and Commissioner Oche and myself have been meeting and talking about things from naming rights to fundraising to updating both the school district and the city on where we are. And then questions about existing infrastructure at various potential sites, including what's the infrastructure like at Coverly? What's the timeline? What's the timing and all of that? So we continue to discuss, and we know that we're not really ready to hear very much of anything until August, but there's still a lot of work to do, and we're working on some good, exciting things. So anything else that you want to add?
No, I think we covered it all. And the fact is, it's still a live project.
Yes, it is still a live project. And Commissioner Oche, anything you want to add?
No, I think you covered it correctly.
Okay.
The only thing I wasn't too sure of is I get excited when there's a target date, but as it is, we're still hanging. So until then, fingers crossed. Yeah.
Good. And then on our racket sports and fields, we've talked a lot about fields tonight, so I think we don't need to talk anymore about that. But we're looking forward to working with Adam on the committee of stakeholders for both tennis and pickleball. And again, saying that Adam has done a really wonderful job on making sure that both communities are working together on different kinds of things. So that's good. And then may I go to the advisory as well? So the chair and I are the liaison now to aquatics. And so I got a really good report that I believe I shared with you as well from Tim Sheeper. And I just would love to mention it. So Rinconada Pool is doing well. Last year at this time, we were just coming off the resurfacing, and the pool had been closed for quite a while, and people were just getting back in the swim, as it were. So here's the report. Lap swim drop-in numbers have increased over last year. Lap swim monthly membership have increased over last year. Open swim drop-ins have increased. Open swim season pass holders have been increased. Swim lessons have dramatically increased as compared to last year. And he believes they're now closer to pre-COVID numbers, which is great. And the swim summer camp registrations have increased also. The wading pool's new frog slide feature is a big hit, and the chair can probably attest to that with her little guy. And then I did ask about adult lessons, private lessons, and Tim said that they're working on those as well. So I think all in all, the aquatics program is in good shape. And then I have an anecdotal piece of information from a friend of mine who is a Palo Alto resident and a master swimmer who used to swim at Stanford and now swims at Rinconada. And I said, how's it going? And he said, it's great, but it's really crowded. We need another pool in Palo Alto. So just mentioning that. Anyhow, I thought it was really good and a really good start to summer for aquatics. And then the Friends of the Palo Alto Parks sent me a note and asked if I would please ask about the status of the Baylands signs on the trail that we had talked about over the past some years, and sort of where that is and when they're going to be when installed. I guess they're both Spanish and English, and they just sort of didn't know because they had given some money to that, but they weren't sure. And so any news about that?
Baylands or Foothills?
No, Baylands.
Oh,
The Baylands Trail. Yeah.
Oh, is that a CIP project? Is that, okay.
So the Baylands interpretive signage project, which was partially grant funded, that we need to do some deed restriction or some easement. There needs to be, I can't think of what it's called. Is it a deed restriction? A deed restriction at where each of those signs are, just due to the property ownership and jurisdiction. So we're in the process of finalizing that piece right now. So once that piece is done, then we can go into fabrication of the signs and get them installed. I don't have an exact timeline, but it's in process.
Is it just community services that's involved in that, or is that a public works, or is it somebody else, another?
It's community services, but we're working with real estate whenever there's a land issue, real estate, and then our city attorney's office.
Well, there's a lot of interest, so
yes,
just to pass that on.
Thank you.
And then the only other thing on my list is the first tee and Goff and the status of any kind of an agreement with the first tee to move forward on the project.
So I had a really good meeting with George from the First Tee program last week with LOM. And it was basically just a, get to know you, meet you introduction. And then also, I'll be joining him this Friday over there to kind of observe their golf first tee program. And also see, then begin the discussions and continue that and keep that moving forward. So we're actively working on that. And so I anticipate on seeing some progress on moving forward with that as we go forward. So right now we're just kind of getting to know each other and seeing what they need, what the expectations are, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other updates? Yes, go ahead.
Thanks. I just wanted to respond to something Commissioner Greenfield said about the timing for work plans. All of the commission liaisons are working with the clerk's office on refining that because it has been not consistent. And now with the recruitments happening at different times of the year, when do we vote in a chair and vice chair? The Parks and Rec Commission is the only commission that actually has in the Muni Code that says we have to do it at the beginning of the year. We might just remove that so there's more flexibility. So I just want to be clear, we are, or to share that we are working on that timing with all of the commissions. And then as Chair Brown mentioned, this year, the commissions actually have an opportunity to present their work plans at a council meeting. So that will happen in August, and it'll be all the community service commissions together. So Parks and Rec, Public Art, and Human Relations Commission will all present on the same night. I think this is a good opportunity to have more dialogue back and forth with the commission and the council on the work plan, why it was developed, what the priorities are, and give the council an opportunity to weigh in if they think there should be a shift in priorities. So I think it's a positive move to go back to having that interaction with the council. So just wanted to share those updates.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I know we have feedback on some of the timing and things, so that's great that it's being implemented. Okay, so moving on to Commissioner Board questions, comments, announcements, and future agenda items. We do have a couple items coming up for July, August. So we're looking at the park improvement ordinance for the tide gate structure to come back as an action item, a Foothills project update, a first tee update, so very timely, and then striping at Terman. That was striping at Terman.
For the pickleball.
For the pickleball, yes,
Yeah.
sorry. At Terman for pickleball.
Great.
Any other details? And so
I don't think so.
Those will all be at July, but we will allow staff to pick what's ready and high priority. And then as things come up. And then we'll also have, we can share the date of the council meeting once we have the date that the work plan will be presented with the full commission.
It's August 19th.
August 19th, perfect. Okay, great. Any other comments from the commission?
Yes, please. Just have one document that I really would love to have us pass around to the whole commission about the Aspen Institute and Project Play has a new initiative out where they have combined all of the major sports groups and some retailers and people who work with kids, because since COVID, youth participation has dropped a considerable amount. And so the Institute has called for all of these organizations to work together, and by 2030 have a much higher percentage of kids playing sports. And so this outlines what they're intending to do and how communities can get involved, especially in areas of underserved children and underserved youth. And then it also notes the fact that sports and playing sports is really important for both physical and mental health. So I thought it was really good for all of us to be aware of, and hopefully the staff who especially works with our middle school program to be aware of that. And I thought it was something that the commissioner maybe could have a discussion about after I send this around. So if I could do that, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
Just one more thing I forgot to mention earlier, with respect to the studies that are being done that'll be done on turf replacement or grass fields, is there any work effort being done to coordinate with either the county or with neighboring cities who are likely to be doing similar studies? This is a hot button topic right now. No need for us to reinvent the wheel on this, and maybe we can pitch in together and get a better outcome.
That is a great suggestion. So the members of the Sierra Club local chapter who came and I think spoke last month on this, or spoke during the budget hearings, they've been sending me a lot of information from local neighboring cities. So I think that's a great suggestion and something we could look into. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll adjourn this meeting. Have a wonderful 4th of July.